Hello and welcome to the Tried It podcast, your proven pathway to a better copywriting business. This is Sarah, one of your hosts, and I am here today with my co-host.
Hi, I'm Nicole, the other side of the Tried It podcast. And today's a very, very special episode.
It is a very special episode, not only because it is the last book in the second season of the Tried It podcast, but we also have with us an incredibly special guest, and we are so excited to have him here. He is known as a genius in the domain of brand voice, which is a close cousin of copywriting. And he is also crazy enough that he agreed to come on this podcast and read a whole last book with us. And we're so grateful to him. So welcome to the Try It podcast, Justin Blackman of Brand Voice Academy.
I like being called genius. That's always fun. It's spelled with a J though, right?
Yeah.
No, this is cool. I'm excited to dive into this. It's a book that I've been meaning to reread for a long, long time. And the timing just made sense. So I'm kind of looking forward to diving in and hearing some of the takeaways that you guys have so I can be better.
Perfect. So, as you said, Justin, you read this book before, and it was actually your suggestion to us to read, which is thrilling. We love to have a good book recommendation. And I have to confess, I had never heard of it before, but listeners, today we are talking about The Referral Engine by John Jantsch, subtitle, Teaching Your Business to Market Itself. So, Justin, you said that you'd already read this book before. How did you find it reading it for a second time?
So I read parts of it about 7 or 8 years ago. It was actually when I was in the Copywriter Club think tank, and the introduction to you guys came through Rob Marsh, who is the one who gave me the book originally. And I had read parts of it, and John's got a whole separate business of duct tape marketing and really big in the marketing space and business growth. And I read a little bit of it, and then I just kind of forgot about it. So I rereading it was basically reading it for the first time. I remember nothing about the book. And that's not to say it was a bad book. It just evaporated from my head.
Well, not to toot our own horns, but Nicole and I have found that by reading books in a more intentional way, it does help you get over that natural erosion process of like starting a book, thinking this is great, and then just moving on from it and never doing anything about it.
Yeah, it's funny because about a year ago, I switched to Kindles or ebooks, and I can highlight in those, but all my older books are pristine. And this I had on paper, and I actually went through it and I highlighted the heck out of it. And normally that feels like sacrilege to me.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny how going to digital, where you can highlight as much as you want, has changed my view on that. And now it's you can tear them apart, you can write in them, and it didn't feel bad. So thank you guys for giving me a chance to break that stigma that I had in my head that it was taboo to write in a book.
I actually don't think I could write in a book. I think it's my schooling. I read on a Kindle. I highlight in my Kindle. I don't think I could highlight it in a book.
Yeah. Even in college, when I would buy used books, people are like, oh yeah, get the one with all the highlights in it because that's everything you need to know. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to read it clean. And I didn't know who highlighted the stuff. It just felt dirty to me. So, but yeah, no, I highlighted the heck out of this one. So
Nicole, if you were going to give a quick overview of the Referral Engine, how would you describe it, say, to a friend in a bar?
So it's a formulaic approach to marketing your business. And it's a shift away from typical marketing strategies relying on customers and strategic partners and even employees within a company to actually help you market your business, because it's relying on referrals. Which I think it's a fascinating approach to marketing, and it's a fascinating way of rethinking how we market businesses.
Yeah, I have to say it really shifted my mindset a little bit. Before I was just thinking, oh yeah, referrals are pretty cool, but it's interesting to kind of lift the lid and see the science a little bit on not just having that be such kind of random haphazard occurrence to something that your business is essentially set up to do, to generate referrals, endless lifetime referrals.
Yeah, it really is just there's a process to it that I hadn't realized. It's a new way to look at inbound business as a specific process rather than luck. And that's kind of always the way that my referrals have come to me. They're like, I hit refresh on my inbox and there's a referral, and it's a beautiful surprise. But being able to do that intentionally with a plan sounds so much better. And it's actually the way that I would like to grow my business moving forward.
Yeah. The author also makes the point that the people who are referred to you tend to be better fits as well. And that working with them tends to go better, again, with the slightly rule of thumb stuff from what I understood reading it. But the person being referred to you will also, they're going to trust you more than somebody who just discovers you in some other kind of way. And because they have more inbuilt trust in you, they're going to be less inclined to haggle on price because they already know that you deliver, and trust can help the business to just move smoother together because you already have almost a shared foundation that you wouldn't necessarily have with somebody who's just reaching out to you cold, as it were, or you reaching out to them cold.
Yeah, there's that trust transfer. I heard that term the other day, and
Right.
I don't know if that's like an existing term that's been out there for a long time, but I heard it. I just heard it the other day, and I was like, "Oh, all right, that's what a referral does." It goes from the know-like trust, the trust being the final piece, to actually trust and then know and like. So it kind of reverses it, but it gets the heavy part done, which is great. And as far as being the right fit, it's funny that referrals from from like previous good clients are the right fit, but I've absolutely had referrals from clients who haven't been a good fit, who tend to refer other wrong fit clients. So it's kind of funny how it just kind of works across the board.
He talks about that, and that's one of the things, I think, Justin, which comes back to what you said about the process, because he talks about understanding who your ideal client is. Because he says not every referral is the right referral. And he said once you understand who your ideal client is, then you can determine whether it's a good referral or a referral you can pass on to somebody else.
Yeah.
Which is another thing he touched on about how you can actually make it like this complete process where you get a referral, it's not for you, and then you help them find the ideal person to help them.
Yeah. I've got a lot of former copywriters, or a lot of copywriters who have trained that sometimes when someone comes to me who isn't a fit, it's great to be able to say, hey, I'm not the right person for you, but I know who is. And this person is a colleague of mine. I've trained with them. I've worked with them. I recommend them. So you're kind of able to pay that trust forward once again, and still put someone in good hands, and that even that wrong fit client will still be appreciative of you serving them. So it looks good on you. It typically will get back to the person who referred them. So you know that they've been treated well, and it still gives them that priority standing, even if you don't work with them moving forward.
It's also a nice bonus honesty point for you for being able to put your hands up and say, look, I'm not the person for this job, rather than just kind of crossing your fingers and, walking into the minefield and thinking, well, I hope this doesn't blow up in my face.
Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't thought about that until what you just said. But it's funny when you say no to someone, hey, I'm not the right fit for you, but I know who is. It actually makes that person want to work with you more. It's just this weird little phenomenon.
Yeah. I found some of the principles of Referral Engine quite interesting because to be clear, it isn't a book targeted at copywriters or even freelancers, self-employed people, whether you're a service-based business or a product-based business. So I did find that there was an element to it when I was reading it that it felt a little bit like pick your own adventure, which he acknowledges as well, because there's some advice in there that I was reading thinking, sweet, but this just wouldn't work for me. For example, talking about onboarding all of your employees and getting your employees to become part of this referrals process as somebody who is self-employed and all alone in the business, I was like, oh, great, I'll get all of me on board in getting those referrals up.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that there's about 30% of the book that is entirely irrelevant to our industry. And it's also a little dated. The tools and websites that it's talking about, I don't remember what year this was made, but some of those things are no longer relevant or been outbid by better companies. There's way more ways to do it than the examples there. So there's some stuff that you just sort of like, yep, nope, not for me. Next page. You skip ahead 5 pages, be like, okay, here we are again. For sure, that was a big part of the book. But I actually found some of the examples were still kind of interesting. I mean, no, I'm not going to talk about like how to rent out my space to PTA meetings or something like that. Like, I'm not going to hold that in my living room to attract a different audience. That would mean I'd have to clean. I'm not going to do that. But there was a really interesting one when it was talking about a landscaper. It's like, you would think that they would ask for a referral about like, do you know anyone who is looking for lawn care maintenance or needs a new, fountain in their on their lawn? That's what the gardener thought was relevant. But the interesting thing was usually the way that the gardener gets referred is because someone's at a party and just says, I need a gardener who doesn't keep leaving the gate open so my dog keeps running out. And while that's not at all relevant to the copywriting industry, it does make you realize that the problem that people are trying to solve or they're facing is usually not necessarily the thing that we're saying that we do. It's a byproduct or like a benefit of something that we do, but it's not our primary thing.
Noted that almost as one of the golden rules from the book, that when you get a referral, you contact the referral source, and not only to thank them, obviously, as a courtesy, but also to say, why did you refer me? Because as you said, Justin, the value that you think you bring, okay, it's not to say that isn't valuable, but they might really value something else that you do. I think there were other good examples in there, like home renovations company that would clear up the sort of building site, whatever it was, every evening so that you could still live relatively normally in your house throughout the renovations process. And you might be thinking, oh, this is just how we do renovations. But actually, from the point of view of the customer, that's incredibly valuable. So he has a nice little flip about always putting yourself in the point of view of the customer rather than the point of view of somebody who'd like to have more business easier.
Yeah, it was, just a lot of it came down to being more delightful to work with. Mm-hmm. And that's part of it, but I never thought about creating a system to be delightful to work with and actually figuring out what it is that people like beyond the finished product. So
he includes essentially a 7-step process as part of this referral engine, which I thought was very interesting because, I've always thought, people work with people that they know and people that they like, which is the beginning of his referral engine or system. So they know you, they like you, then it's they trust you, then they try you, then they buy you, then they, I think, refer you. I think I may have skipped a few.
That's not right.
What fascinated me about the buy step was that he said that it's not about the actual buying; it's how you orientate them, how you onboard them, or the experience you give them, which makes sense. The service and the product needs to be stellar and amazing. That's obvious, but it's everything else, which I've thought about. But I've never thought about, I think, as you said, making it a system or making it built in where the aim is the referral, or I'm moving towards the referral, or I ask for the referral. He talks about asking for referrals. I would never do that. Never. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
Yeah. I've definitely prompted people for referrals. Like, hey, if you know of anyone, please let me know. But like literally making it part of the process to ask, like, I need to get better at that. I absolutely do. There's a book it's by Philip M. Jones, called Exactly What to Say. And he has a part where he's talking about referrals, and he says, hey, you wouldn't happen to know anyone who needs this service, would you? And by asking like that, you're kind of challenging them. Like, you wouldn't know, would you? And people are like, wait, no, hold on. I want to know. Like, you're saying you don't. And they're like, no, I want to. And creating a follow-up process with that. And I've tried it and it works, but I can see that it's not enough the way that this book outlines, like, even planting the seeds early on. Like when you take on someone in the sales call, you're like, I want to be so good that you refer me to all your friends. Like planting that seed in the sales call. And then like, when the contract sign, I want to make this so good, the best decision that you've ever had, that you can't stop talking about us. And literally just planting these seeds all along So when the times at the end of the service, or even during the service, when you bring this up and you specifically ask, like, hey, I'd love to meet some of your friends, or if you could, I'd love to be passed on, it makes sense. And it just feels like the natural next step for someone to do.
So many things to say about that. I think that sounds like that book that you mentioned there will be featured on a future season of the Tried It podcast, because it sounds really useful. But when he was talking about literally asking you for referrals, I had the same reaction as you, Nicole. Like, there's part of my brain that's like, well, obviously this makes sense. But there's another part of my brain that's like, oh my God, that sounds like one of the most awkward things to ask ever, other than like trying to borrow money off your ex-parents-in-law, you know? Like, it's really up there. But he does provide actually a series of reframes as he opens the book. Which I suppose to counterbalance this, that saying that people want to make referrals because there's a sort of social cachet in being the person that says, oh, you've told me that you have X problem. I know a guy who provides Y solution and he's really great at it. I want to put you guys in touch. And so if you're the person who makes that connection, you are raising your own social status on a number of levels. So I can see how, again, thinking about it from that point of view, that is a healthy way of looking at it. There's just something in me, and maybe it's the British person in me, that just wants to die inside thinking about saying those words out loud.
Yeah, I think it's a complete mindset shift. And like, he also talks about how it's not an arrogant thing. It's a great thing, because you're passing on your value. Like, you're giving your value to people who need it, which makes sense. And I agree, but it's the South African in me, and very, very hard for me to ever imagine myself saying that. I do receive referrals from time to time, and they just come to me. I'm very grateful, sending my gratitude to the universe and to people. I don't know, but I've never asked. And again, I love the fact that this is a system. I've never thought about using or creating a system for kind of funnel or a process for referrals. I've thought about other kind of systems in my business. So this was really, for me, eye-opening.
Yeah, it's the process isn't like, it's harder for us to ask than it is to be asked. Because if someone says like, hey, do you know someone? You want to help them. Like you mentioned, there is that social currency. We want to help. I mean, Rob March introduced me to you guys. I remember that. I consider it an honor to be asked by Rob, and the trust transfer that came with you guys because of that is high. So it makes sense. Like, if you ask me at the end of this, like, hey, do you know anyone else who might be a fit? I want to help you. Like,
oh my God, we should do that. That should be an implementation point, which is also an instant win.
It's such an easy thing to do. I've actually been on a podcast where at the end they're like, hey, can you think of 2 people who you would like to hear on this podcast? I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Because you want to hear your friends. I'm going to tune in for that episode. They're going to appreciate the recommendation. And then it makes your job so much easier. So even small things like that, I'll consider it a win. You'll consider it a win. The other person considers it a win. So it's just, I don't know, all around, it's a good thing.
It's also possible that, and I'm just thinking of this now, when you're the person who's being asked and the request is not insanely specific, but moderately specific, like, do you know, small to medium sized business that needs help with their email marketing, something like that, it's easier being the person to hear that, because your mind can jump around and be like, oh yeah, I know this person who works with them and that. Whereas when you're asking the question, you don't really have those ideas in your mind. Whereas for me, if somebody asks me, oh, who do you know in this industry? It's quite satisfying to think, oh, actually, I know this person and this person, because it's like, I've got these specific answers that you're looking for. Whereas the person asking the question is just sort of putting out feelers there, and there's nothing for them to sort of bump up against.
Yeah. Even the way that you phrase that, though, like, do you know a small to medium sized business with email marketing? That's not like, that doesn't, I'm like, do I know a small to medium sized business? No, I don't. But if you ask me like, hey, do you know anyone who hates the way their email sounds? Oh, yeah, I know it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's getting specific about the way that this person expresses their challenge, their pain, their frustration that we need to get better at, especially as copywriters. Do you know anyone who needs copywriting? No, I don't. Hey, you know anyone who hates their webpage? Yeah, I do.
Yes, no, that's a really good point. And also, the process element of it takes some of the pressure off each individual ask. It's like so many things. Once you have that habit installed in you, it becomes easier to ask the difficult questions, to push for the things that you want, because you know that you've done it before, so it's habit, and you also know that you have a system behind you that can support you when you get the win that you're asking for. Whereas if you just do it on a sort of random ad hoc basis, as much of my sort of referral business is right now, it's awkward and difficult precisely because it's unusual.
Yeah, there's so much here that I just haven't thought about. I mean, everything that I do with brand voice, the way that I break it down and I analyze it, is a process. The way that I sell is kind of a process, but the way that I ask for referrals has always just been luck. There's something here that it's a challenge that I'm still trying to figure out. I will say that I've had to read a couple of other things that sent me down a little bit of a rabbit hole as for like how we can ask for referrals and what we can look at. And, one of the things that I do is that I mean, obviously I have my teaching arm for copywriters, but I also have a client side where I help clients figure out their brand voice. Right now with AI and all that stuff, it's actually something that I want to lean into. And it's easy to ask people like, hey, do you know anyone who's struggling with AI or brand voice? But the way that I talk about it isn't clear to clients. So hearing some other people, and I've got to give a shout out to Michelle Warner from Tiny Businesses. She was talking about referrals, and I heard her talk about something, and she's like, most of my referrals come because I ask if people know small groups or private masterminds or things like that, where I can go and talk about this thing that I do. So she's not asking for clients. She's asking a chance to talk about her thing. And I realize that like how nerdy I get with brand voice and the way that I talk about it, it doesn't make sense. Like people can't pay that forward. They can just be like, he's your guy if you need brand voice. People don't know that. But when I go in and I actually show people what I do, they're like, oh my God, I need that. So I don't need clients. I need a chance to show clients what I can do. Like that reframe, that shift, that's going to be the thing that I'm going to lean into. And when we regroup to talk about something, that's what I want to talk about. I'm not going to be asking for clients. I'm going to be asking, do you know some groups that I can speak with where I can provide value and make you look good?
That's something that he goes into a lot in the book, not specifically around the referrals, but sort of forming strategic partnerships with other businesses, and how that is, mutually beneficial.
Yeah. And I think he talks about like accountants and lawyers being a natural partner. I haven't figured out who my partner was. And this book kind of opened my eyes to that. And then that last little seed, look for groups to speak with, not people to sell, but look for groups to speak with, because then I can sell in there. Like, it's not that I can sell, it's that I can show people what I do and they can come to me. I can provide value to them. That, to me, that was the missing piece that was kind of in the book, but I needed an outside source to dial it in.
Yeah. It's possibly a slightly tangential point, but when I read that, I thought there are some really smart ideas in there. There are some slightly dated ideas. I mean, a lot of the content marketing stuff is just not relevant now. It's crazy how much content marketing has changed since I did look at when the book was published for reference, 2010. So yeah, content marketing in 15 years, it's a whole different ballgame. But the strategic partnerships, it's a really smart idea, and it's something that it really set off something in my brain. That it was an idea that I had, like 2 years ago with the best intentions and didn't follow up on. But I feel like there is a cultural element in that too. When I first started self-employed, I tried to make connections with local businesses where I'm based here in the south of France, and would have had more luck talking to a closed door, you know. Even if you present it as a mutually beneficial arrangement, there was absolutely no pickup at all. And perhaps, you know, that maybe that was to do with the way that I was talking about it, and I just didn't sell it well enough. But I thought, okay, this really depends on you going out and finding people who understand the value in these kinds of relationships too. Because in my local community, it's like, you do the same thing as me, I will kill you. I will gut you.
I like it. Claws are coming out.
Yeah. Literally turf warfare, you know?
Yeah. No, it's I'm looking forward to trying this out. And there were definitely some parts in the book that made me lean into it. There was he had the acronyms. I don't remember what the letters were, but it was, this is how we do it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That element where like you focus on your process. I know that my process is super nerdy and it is deep and it is very, very nuanced. I live in the details of people's writing. That's what I do, is I analyze the style. I focus more on not what you say, but how you say it. And then we can figure out how any copywriter can bring that to life. So it's super nuanced. But by showing this is how I do it, it attracts the right people who are like, oh my God, I never knew that this was a thing. And I didn't know how to sell that. Now I think I do.
Well, that sounds like a really big shift.
Yeah. And I think the shift comes down to like not selling, but focusing on value, you know, because it's not about selling almost. It's about like showing the value you can bring to people, like the transformation you can offer them, which is why I think the strategic partnerships work so well, because you find people where like you could, you know, be beneficial to their community or to them. And like you show them, I think it's a very valuable shift. And it's almost refreshing as well, you know, as opposed to like hardcore marketing, you know, sales in a person's face.
Yeah. Like I've got a pretty good close rate, but I don't have a very high referral rate. So I know being able to, and like to me, it was just like, oh, referrals come when they come. But now that I have more of a way to focus on it, rather than just kind of posting on LinkedIn and praying, I think I'm kind of excited about this for the first time in a while.
I'm very curious to know that if done well, if this could replace like other marketing channels, or, you know, I mean, if one could rely on the referral engine as your engine to drive your business.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm ready to be off LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the challenges, especially in the copywriter industry, because we're pretty incestuous. We talk to each other, we follow each other, we sign up for each other's newsletters. Like I accidentally built an audience of copywriters and I had to change my business because I'm sending out emails and no one's buying for services, no one's buying my stuff. And I was like, oh, it's because everyone on my list is selling competing stuff. So I had to shift my offers to copywriting training, which was never my goal, but that's how I had to grow my business. That's where Brand Voice Academy came out of. Now I'm at the point where I kind of want to branch out of that. So as much as I have an audience, it's not the audience that I want to grow. So, and full disclosure, that was why I wanted to read this book, because I've got some big wins and some big connections with clients and mostly personal brands in the areas that I want to go, but I don't have a full network. I have individual people and I'm trying to flesh out the network. So the referral engine is what I'm hoping is the missing piece to make that happen. So being able to do this and reach into a new audience that doesn't follow me on social media, that probably doesn't care about social media, that's what I want to do, because I don't really enjoy being on social.
Yeah, I think having a low social media marketing strategy that's certainly my dream. I don't enjoy thinking, oh God, it's time to post on LinkedIn again, you know. It doesn't fill me up. But yeah, it is about building that process to get the right people coming to you. It's interesting how the right person or the right project can be such a springboard in in ways that you can't necessarily tell. It just, it opens doors that you kind of felt were out there, but you were sort of feeling around in the dark, and suddenly the light's on and you're just like, whoa, okay, there's a whole room of people here in front of me.
Yeah. I've worked with a couple of pretty big names in the personal space, the personal brand space. And whenever I get a private connection from them to someone else, I'm not going to name drop here, but like those are by far the best clients. But then sometimes that person will post on social about me or say something on a podcast, and then I'll get like an influx of inquiries from their audience who are very rarely the right fit. It's like I need the people that have strong personal brands, not the people who are trying to learn from the person who has the strong personal brand.
Yeah. He makes an interesting point about it. Yeah, when you get the wrong referral, that you let the person know, oh, thanks so much for referring me to X person, but X person wasn't a good fit for me. Here's why. Which again, great advice, but I was like, that just sounds awkward as hell.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be doing that because I greatly appreciate it, but it's not always what I want. Yeah, so letting go of more of the social channels where those wrong fit people will follow me. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but it's just not where I want to spend a lot of time.
And also, social media follows, they don't pay the bills, you know? It is not currency.
I'm wondering if that's where he talks about having or finding your talkable difference, which is kind of like this thing that helps you, I guess, stand out. And I'm wondering if maybe this is where that could come in, you know, like finding I don't want to say gimmick, but finding that thing that differentiates you in a way that would speak to the people that you want to get in front of, if that makes sense. And in your case, like the personal brands or the people that you're trying to target, and you find this talkable difference that resonates with them.
Yeah. And I've actually even started doing that. If you're a writer, you might know the name Jimmy Parent. So Jimmy's one of my buddies, and he was saying is like, there's something about you that's hard to put my finger on about why you're so good at this, but you need to ask other people why they would refer you. And I asked a couple people, and some people are like, oh, anything brand voice or witty writing, I'm going to refer you. I'm like, all right, but I don't really do that anymore. I'm not really a copywriter anymore. You can't hire me to write your website. What you can do is hire me to help you figure out your brand voice, which is very specific. So what I found, I asked a few people, the majority of it was brand voice and writing. But the interesting things were, you go deeper into the details to where you're able to see the full picture. Like you zoom in, but then you zoom out, and you're able to help me see the end before I get there. And I'm like, okay, that's something. I need to figure out what to do with it. But what you're saying there, like figuring out what that identifiable difference is, it's probably not what you think. Like it's the gardener who closes the door. It's the home renovation people that sweep. We probably don't know what this is. So you have to ask these questions to people who know you. And some of them are just going to tell you exactly what you think. But the people who don't, I think there's a line in the book, he says, when you find an idea and somebody says, but nobody does that, then you're onto something.
I love that.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What do I do that nobody else does? Because it feels natural to me.
It's also counterintuitive because, you know, I've always been told that, you know, if you're starting a business and no one else is doing it, that's not a good sign. You know, that's a sign that like it hasn't been validated, the idea, you know, but he kind of flies in the face of that. He's like, no, if no one else is doing this, this is an opportunity for you, which I really liked. It was like an invitation to play. I really liked it.
Yeah. It's risky. That's one of the things that I'm struggling with now is the thing that I do, nobody else really does. And it's hard to talk about. It's hard to explain. It's hard to be referred. But when I get the right person, they're like, oh, where have you been?
Right. Yeah. A great thing to hear. What did you think about the talkable difference, Nicole, in the context of the business pivot that you're working on?
So it spoke to me so deeply. I'm in the process of pivoting my business. And it really spoke to me because I feel like what I'm trying to build, again, not to sound arrogant at all, like it comes from a very humble place, but I don't see people framing what I want to do and the way I'm doing it. I'm trying to launch what I call like copy therapy. So people have always told me that I'm kind of like a cheerleader, a therapist, and a copywriter. If they walked into a bar, you'd get me, essentially, because I help people deal with all the things that kind of keep them stuck. So writer's block and imposter syndrome and all those things, and kind of conquer the blank page. So I'm trying to build something around that, which I know sounds very vague. And I've been told that there's no business model here, which I'm working on. But to me, it was kind of, I felt that there was a talkable difference here. Like this isn't pure copywriting, like it draws from it, but there's something deeper. So yeah, it just spoke to me and it felt like an invitation to kind of pursue this. I must be honest. Like it felt like the right thing at the right time for me.
Yeah. And that's great.
You're definitely my copy therapist.
Thank you.
We all need one.
Yeah.
Real therapy is good too. And don't be afraid to talk about this. This is your show. Like you.
True. No, it's just I'm a serial pivoter, so I'm scared of like, doing another. It's very bad. It's very bad. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I get it.
You've got a broad experience,
Yeah, it's like the thing that I'm doing. I'm not pivoting. I'm just narrowing. And it's the same direction, but it's like instead of going like west, I'm going, I don't know what the degree would be. Like I'm going a very specific degree. I'm not going to a general area. I'm just getting very, very focused on a few things. And it feels the same way though. It's just like I'm going into the unknown. It's like, well, no, actually I do this. I just don't know how to talk about this thing just yet.
Does it excite you or terrify you or inspire you? Like what kind of,
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I hear you.
All of the above. But like, so that's it. Like I know the problem that I solve, but it's not phrased the way that the people who I'm trying to help talk about it. This new thing that I'm doing where I really help people figure out who they are. So like for a founder, for a brand, most founders build a brand that just sort of sounds like them. And then they build a team who just tries to mirror the founder, but they're not the founder. And the brand needs its own voice. You don't build a team just to copy you. You build a team to support you. So what I do is I kind of help the founders separate from the brand so the brand can have its own foundation, its own life, its own voice. And then I can train the writers to do that because it's more forgiving than trying to emulate a specific person. So I'm doing that. And like my first thought is I help founders separate from the brand. So I talked about that and founders are like, well, I don't really want to separate from my brand. I just want people to be able to write like me or write on brand. I don't want to spend all this time writing content. I don't want to have to fix everything. I'm like, oh, I can talk about that. That's actually a simpler problem, but like, that's just a symptom of the larger problem. So it's like, I have to find the pain that they're in. And then the diagnosis is actually much deeper, but they don't care about the big thing. They only care about the little pain that they're in right now. And that's kind of what I have to lead with. So it's frustrating. It's a challenge. It's hard. I use this random example here. Like if someone's got eczema, it's like, all right, well, we need to figure out why you have eczema. They're like, no, I just want this rash to go away. Like, oh, I can get the rash to go away, but really what we want to do is cure the eczema.
Stop it coming back.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I'm focusing on like the underlying problem, but now my messaging has to be more that surface level pain to get them in, to help them understand what this is. So it's hard. And we do this for a living. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Although to somebody who doesn't move in that circle at all, that does sound like the potential for referrals is quite rich, because I think that those sort of founder people tend to know each other, at least sort of tangentially, socially. So yeah, if you sort of climb up on the top of those monkey bars, there's more bars in front of you to keep you on that level.
Yeah. And that's it. And I know a lot of them, but they don't know how to refer me other than like, oh, he helps with brand voice. Like, I don't have a brand voice problem. I know my brand voice. I just can't get my writers to get it. Yeah. So rather than ask them, hey, do you know anybody who's struggling with writers? What I'm going to do with this referral system is now say, hey, do you know any groups where I can talk about what I did with you to show them how this stuff works. That's not sell me, but can I help you provide value to your group?
Yeah, that's really nice.
That's the other thing that I realized that I can create a 5-part sequence that can be the follow-up to any workshop that I give that will be specifically about this. And I can make it fun. I can make it punchy. Because if they trust me, that's the hard part. Those emails just have to do the know and like. So that's easy. That's an easier switch.
So Justin, you kind of tantalize us with your implementation points there. So we normally do like a 1, 2, 3, and I feel like I've got a rough sense of what they are, but can you state them out loud for the podcast so that we have a verbal commitment?
Things that I'm going to do?
The 3 points that you want to work on between now and the next time we meet in this virtual room in cyberspace.
Okay, so my 3 goals moving forward is I would like to schedule 2 workshops a month with small groups and or masterminds, not of copywriters, but of founders, of business owners, of entrepreneurs, people who I think I can help. So that's goal number 1. Try to get 2 of those scheduled a month.
That sounds amazing. Are you going to be like giving content to that, or just sort of like hosting a space for people to talk about their issues or some sort of balance?
I'd like to be a guest presenter in existing places. Not necessarily, okay. I don't want to bring people to me. I want to go where they are.
Right. I see.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah. So when
2 a month.
2 a month. Then what I'd like to do is create a 4 or 5 part onboarding, like welcome sequence, specifically for this problem. Most of my stuff's about brand voice, but now I can talk about how this shows up to kind of educate, but also showcase my personality a little bit more, because I think the trust factor will be there. The 4 or 5 emails will be about knowing and liking, and have a CTA that will hopefully book more business. And then I guess the third thing is, get clients.
Through a sort of referral mechanism?
Yeah. I'd like to, I know my brain will not create the type of systems that John Jantsch talks about, those like score tracking and things like that. I know I should do that. I'm not gonna. I just won't.
Hey, we're big on knowing yourself, knowing what works for you. So that's fine, you know? This is why you get to pick your own implementation points.
Yeah. So I'm not going to do that, but I would like to at least mentally create a little bit more of a process for tracking what works.
Nice. Sounds like you're going to be really busy.
That's the thing. Like, this doesn't seem hard. This is kind of asking, hey, are you in a group? Like, you kind of know what I do. I've got something I think would be helpful. Would you be up for mentioning me to the host of the group about possibly coming in and doing a free workshop?
I'm curious to hear how it goes. If obviously we will get together and talk about it, but yeah, how the presentation goes, what kind of feedback you get from the host, from the participants. It sounds like a rich vein in a blue cheese for you.
I like it.
Yeah.
How about you guys? What do you guys get?
Sarah, you want to go?
Okay, I will go next. My first implementation point is, this is making me think of the episode that we recorded earlier, Nicole, about Storyworthy, that the best time to have started doing this thing would have been years ago, and the second best time is now. Anyway, as a copywriter, my niche is working with podcasters. And the podcasting industry, it's huge. There are so many people in it who have so many different jobs, and I meet them through LinkedIn, through conferences, through introductions, and I want to execute one of the techniques that John talks about in the book of not just having these people as sort of rough I've got this guy's name and email address, but to reach out to these people and say, I would like to know more about you and your business, so that if I'm ever in the position to refer you, I can make great referrals. So I see it as, obviously it's a kind of spreadsheet database, but as almost a mind map of the industry, to see who's connected with each other and who isn't. And also, it's a really good opportunity for me to do some podcasting outreach, which I haven't been able to do as much this year for various reasons. And so it's an exercise for me in like kind of reestablishing those connections that have, cooled off a little bit. So that's implementation point number 1, is building up my database of these people, their sort of unique selling point and who their ideal clients are, so that I can start thinking about referring people out and, building these links again. Number 2 is I'm working on a new service right now. And when John talked about having a user manual for the service that you hand off to clients, I was just like, that is such a ridiculously simple idea. And it's now is the best time for me to do this, because it's really the debut of me pitching this to clients. So I can start building the how-to manual alongside it, so that when I'm, really selling it, I've got it ready to go out. Rather than like with my other implementation point, I should have been doing this for years, But I really want to make it part of my unique selling point of my services, that it's not just, oh, you're going to get some emails, you're actually going to get emails plus information of how you can get the most out of them, because I want to be working with people who really care about their podcast and about building an email-based community of listeners. So I'm looking out for those people who really care about those things. And I think that this is another way of saying, oh, and I really care too, rather than just being like, here's your emails, ciao, see ya. So that's implementation points 1 and 2. Implementation point number 3, I will verbally out loud ask for a referral. Ask one human to another human about referring. And I can feel chills going down my spine as I say it, but I'm going to say it out loud.
Good. I like it.
It's amazing.
I don't know, the other ones, it's slightly intellectual exercises, which is where I'm really comfortable, sat behind my laptop with my mug of tea, speaking to people and saying what you want from them. Oh my God.
Remember, people want to help you. It improves their social currency as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I need to go and read through all of those reframes and then ask it out loud, and not ask it in such a way of, could you refer to so much, please? Thank you very much. Goodbye.
It's that whole Ben Franklin story where he had an enemy and he wanted to get on his good side. So he asked him for a favor. He asked if he could borrow one of his books. And then the guy was so taken aback and he gave him the book. And then they started talking and that whole thing went out. Move forward. It's people want to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that for other people, but suddenly when it comes down to it, I'm just like, oh, yeah, sure. But I've committed to it. And when we commit to something on the podcast, we really do try hard to do it. So when we meet again, we three meet again, I will tell you about how it went.
I can't wait to hear more, Sarah.
Yeah. Okay. I might need to have sessions with my copy therapist first.
If you know if you need someone who might be good, I can recommend someone. A good copy therapist.
Thank you. Oh, good. So those are my 3 implementation points. And over to you, Nicole, because I'm curious to hear about how this could integrate with your new business moves.
Sure. So my first one is I want to hone my my talkable difference. So I think I have it, but I want to focus more on that, like what actually makes me different and how can I maybe stand out even more and I kind of own my space.
Maybe also saying it out. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but saying it out loud as well. That it's not just something that you have written in some copy somewhere, but you are comfortable talking about it with people in a kind of spontaneous manner, like talking your talkable difference.
Which I'm not. I'm really not. So yeah that's Yeah, that's a bit.
Sorry, I've just added extra work to your plate there, but
I used an AI tool to talk me through it because I don't know, it just feels it's like something that's been brewing in my brain for a long time. So it's a good idea. My second one, similar to yours, Sarah, I want to work on like a kind of orientation pack. So when someone starts working with me, what that process looks like. I have a different kind of a universe that I want to build for them. So I'm kind of thinking about that. And my third one is I want to try pitch, which might be early, but strategic partners, like offer them some sort of talk. And I thought of kind of taking it in a completely different direction. So out of the copywriting space, like going to, I don't know, like maybe not therapists, but maybe people, because I think my ideal target audience, I think, are kind of female entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, that kind of space. So I'm trying to think of strategic partners who they might gravitate towards. I don't know if you know Marie Forleo, but like she has this community. I think that if I could plant myself in there, I think that would be a good fit. Like that could be a place where ultimately one day, maybe, you know, if I could get in there, like that would be a good place to find people. So yeah, those are my three.
That sounds great.
I like it.
Nice. So with all of those implementation points spoken out loud, we will be wrapping up here. There are going to be links in the show notes for you to buy your own copy of the Referral Engine, because we love it when our listeners support the authors whose work enables us to become better copywriters. There's also going to be a link below for you to check out our Tried It podcast membership, because as we're coming up to the end of the second season, that means that there won't be any more podcasts for a while. But if you can't bear to live without it, the Tried It podcast membership is a way for you to not only have the Tried It podcast in your inbox year round, it's also a way for you to work on becoming a better copywriter through the exercises we send out, through our bonus content, and through your participation in your connection with Nicole and I through our inbox. So if that sounds like you, if you're a copywriter who thinks, I don't know where my path forward is to upskilling, have a look at the membership. It's on the link in the show notes. So we are going to be wrapping it up here, but thank you so much, Justin, for joining us. It's been such an honor. It's been really cool hearing your thoughts about the book.
Oh, this was great. I really appreciate it. It's a cool concept.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, Justin.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's listened. And we will catch you on the next episode where we discuss how we've got on all of our hardcore implementation. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.